Welcome. It is no accident that you have found your way to the Release the Genie podcast. What would you do with 3 wishes? And what if you discovered that you are in fact that very genie that could grant them? Well, join us now as we discover who our next genie is as we listen in and learn the stories of triumph, inspiration, and passion with some very special guests. And now, without further delay, your host of the Release the Genie podcast, Mr. Paul Rogers.
So good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're tuning in today. We have got an amazing Genie today. She has really touched and made a big impact on me. So I'm hoping and knowing, actually, no hope about it, that she will be able to make an impact on you. Her name is Louise Tremblay, so that's kind of Quebecois, so that's kind of nice. She is an author of a best-selling supernatural thriller called The 7 Roses, which I read in one sitting, ladies and gentlemen. It's that damn good. Also, she's a dynamic thought leader, an intuitive coach, a mentor, transformation and change management, and helps entrepreneurs. And that's all before breakfast. So let me introduce you today to today's Genie. Louise, how are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for this lovely intro, Paul. It feels good. It feels good. Feels like it isn't me, but I think
what we should all have that, like a theme tune, and that's the script we listen to in the mornings. The world be a different place.
That's such a great idea. Just record it and listen to it. Absolutely.
You heard it here first, everyone. You heard it here first. So I've set the scene. So I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I've just recently retired due to an organizational redesign that happened in the company I was in. And they offered me a package, which I thought, I wasn't really quite ready to retire, but why not? Let's do it. And I think that's the best thing that happened to me, because that's the only way I could redesign myself and figure out what I really wanted to do in my 60s. But I'm also a mom of a 35-year-old son whom I adore. I've had a very fruitful, successful career, mostly in communications and high tech. I've held some pretty interesting, amazing roles that took me traveling in all parts of the world. And in the end, before I retired, I was a coach and a mentor to professional people in our organization, professional services. And I loved it, because that's where I feel I'm at my best. And so now I'm a writer and a ghostwriter and a mentor, as you mentioned, working with the amazing Peggy McCall, whom you've interviewed.
Yeah, no, and the link was beautiful because Peggy led me to you, and I feel very fortunate about that. So yes, I mean, wow, you've got. One thing that really stood out for me there was the retirement package actually turned out to be a big opportunity rather than a kind of an ending. So that kind of feels like you were really able to spread your wings.
It wasn't easy at first, because I defined my value all my life based on work, really. You get up, you go to work, you put your suit on, you go to work, and that's what you do, and that's what people recognize you for. And I didn't know outside of that who I really was. And I think that I honestly believe that if you're supposed to be on a certain path and you're not paying attention to it, life will put you on it. Life will do something to get you on the path you're supposed to be. Now, it happened late in life for me in my 60s, never too late. But it was a gift, really, that it took me a long time. Well, I find a year long, I find 2020 has been short and long at the same time. But that happened last December, right before COVID. And I sat there worried to death, thinking, what am I going to do? Because this is what I do. I'm a corporate person. That's my life, and that's how I earn my money, and that's how I pay my bills. And then I kept looking for another corporate job and searching everywhere I could, applying. And I thought, who's going to want to hire me? I'm in my 60s. It's COVID time. What am I going to do? And to be perfectly honest, between Peggy and yourself, and Peggy has been one of my greatest mentor, and I call her my muse and my soul sister as well. She was like, "Are you kidding me? You have so much to offer. Why do you worry about? Why wouldn't you do what you're best at doing and do this, right?" And then the biggest proof was when she took me on as a mentor in her company, and she only hires the best. She has few people that are directly working with her, but she hands pick them for, and they are really the best. And I thought, me? Are you serious? She's like, you need to believe in yourself. I believe in you. And anyway, between that and the time I spoke with you, which I was still struggling, worrying about getting the corporate job where I could wear my suit and go to work. And then I talked to you, and I told you that I felt like I was touched by an angel. I felt the reason that we were connected, sure, for podcast, because she referred me, but was way, way greater than that.
Yeah.
And there's this whole sense of peace that took over me after our call. And I said to myself, I know what I'm going to do. I immediately decided I'm not searching for another corporate job. I am going to help people in any way I can. Money will come when it needs to happen. But trusting myself with a gift, I think, that I have that I didn't think I had is to tell stories and to put them into words. And that's how I got to ghostwriting for this wonderful person in Australia, actually. And I love it. I love it. I get up at 4:30 in the morning. I can't wait to get up.
Yeah.
I have my coffee and I start writing, and I write and I write. And then I'm like, okay, I got to take a break. I eat, I go back until about 9 o'clock at night. I don't watch TV anymore. I don't worry about things. I am so calm that I was at the dentist yesterday, and it was the whole test and x-rays and whatnot. And she took my blood pressure, and she said, oh my God, like your pulse, the blood pressure was fine. The pulse was like 42.
Oh my.
And it should be around at least 60.
Yeah.
And she said, oh my God. And I said, I can't believe it. I said, I think, am I dead? Am I really here? Am I dead? And she's like, you should really check on that. I said, I think I'm like too calm. I am literally too calm.
Yeah.
That's never happened to me.
Well, I can feel, and I know everyone else who's watching, so I can just feel this outpouring of just easy feeling energy, and it's just, it's effortless, and that's wonderful. I know you've got a copy of your book there because we had a chat about it, and I tried finding it on my tablet, but I get a reflective screen. Could I trouble you to hold it up, because this is actually also inspired by true events as well. And it's only it's quite a little short one, but it packs a punch, I can tell you. It's
Yes, 7 roses, and every rose has a story, as you found out in the book. And people asked me, I may discover with an image I purchased, but I added the butterfly and the rose, and the girl is walking into a certain, like it's a mist. And I wanted to convey what that was about, because with a title like Seven Roses, people may wonder, oh, is it about flowers? Is it about, what
Sort of
is it
romantic
about?
thing, or
Romantic, but it's not. And all the comments that I get about it is that it's not long. It's got 200 and maybe 10 pages or something like that. But yes, it is packed because there's a lot happening in there. And because every rose has a story, the story is there for every event that happens. And Ellen, the main character, which is, a lot based on me and my story, but it is a fiction at the same time. So you have to kind of detach yourself from it a little bit and add some things. But people ask me, so what's really real in there? And I say, in one way or another, when everything you see has happened somewhere to someone, that's what it is. But the story, and especially how it starts, is true to what happened. So this was, what can I say? It was a big release for me to write down some of the things that I had never talked about, especially, well, some of the hard things, and we won't talk about it, but you read it. And also speaking with dead people. That's, you don't talk to many people about that, because they'll think you're crazy, or or it's not real. And to me, it's very, very real, and it's happened since the age of 7, and it still happens. And there are other things that happen in there where, when you're open to that, you're open to receiving dark spirits and things like that. So but can I just, mention something? Do I have time to
please
mention
do.
just something?
You're the
I
genie.
mean,
You can talk about what you like.
you you dream of things when you're young, and you dream of it, and you just park it in a dream bubble, and you never think it's going to happen. And for me, that was, one day I will write a book, and there will be a movie about my book. And I just always thought that, but yeah, it was in my dream bubble. Well, what do you know? It's been picked up by an Oscar-winning Hollywood movie producer, who, through Peggy, she met him in Hollywood, in Los Angeles, and happened to be sitting at a VIP table with him, and pitched my story. And he wanted to see or hear it or read it. She said, send it to me, I'll send it to him. And it wasn't printed yet. And she sends it to him, and he, I think, like within 2 hours, if that, he texted her, and he said, and I'm sorry, Phil, if you hear me, he said, holy shit. And anyway, he said some other things, and he said, this is like really, really good. And she texted me, and I was at work, and she said, are you sitting down? Because the Hollywood producer wants to talk to you now. And I'm at work, and I'm supposed to, I'm handling a call, a video call, in 10 minutes from then. And so I'm like, okay. So she's like, pick up your phone, I'm calling. And I pick up my cell, and she's with him, and I'm blown away, speechless, don't even know what to say, because he's asking, so who are you? Are you a journalist? Are you, because a lot of people will have that background. And I don't even know what to answer. I'm like, no, I'm just a girl from Quebec, and I work in high tech. And Peggy jumps right in. She goes, she's more than just a girl from Quebec who works in high tech. She's held, vice president positions. She's, built, technology, blah, blah, blah. She goes on. And I'm like, I wouldn't have even thought about saying that. I didn't think that really meant anything. So anyway, he said, long story made short, let's meet in LA. the month after, because there was another event, and Peggy and I flew to LA. Peggy was actually speaking at an event, and so was he. And then we met, and he said, yeah, that's got to be a movie. And I'm just, so now it's patience, because
Yeah.
COVID happened. Everything in Hollywood went,
Mm,
quiet for,
mm.
and it's just picking up. He's telling me there's some filming in other places where they'll let him in, let them in. But he's shopping it to the biggest studio. Sony has it. He's gone to Netflix with it, to do maybe a series, because there's so much happening in there that it's hard to actually do it in one movie.
Mm.
Paramount Picture is reading it.
I mean,
I'm just
these are household names. I mean, right, so I'm going to say now, anyone who wants this lady's signature, get it now, because you can sell it on eBay later. So no, that's
oh, thank you.
wonderful. I mean,
Isn't it? It's
I mean,
just amazing.
it's a fascinating journey, and I was really enjoying listening to it. So, um, I'm going to see, and you may have actually answered all these questions, which is fine, because that we're having fun. What was one of your aha moments, and where you sort of were able to release the genie?
I have to say, when I wrote the book,
Mm.
I have to say because I wrote it, the first draft, I wrote it in 15 days. And that was a aha moment, because I didn't think I could write. I've never written a book. I've written a lot of commercial things, for business and even marketing pieces and stuff like that. But to write a book, my best friend was Google, because I had to research everything I needed to do. I took a lot of classes from Masterclass and listened to the best of the best. And then, 15 days later, I had a manuscript. Yeah, it needed a lot of editing, and it took a bit to go through that. But that was my aha moment. It's like, hey, you can do it, girl. You
That's
can do
amazing,
it.
and that it's so inspiring as well, because retirement is just a word, and a man-made word that,
Mhm.
and so I personally, I don't believe the word exists. Certainly doesn't exist in my world or your world, which is great. So tell us, I'm really interested to know, what's kind of one of your mantras or your inspiring comment. Have you got one of those you could share with us?
Inspiring comment?
Mm,
Mm. Believe in yourself and do it.
mm,
Do
that's
it. There's no other way to put it, because you can think about it, you can dream it, but unless you do what you want to do, you'll never be, you'll never know that you can do it. You just have to believe in yourself. I mean, to me, that's the biggest thing for me.
mm. All right, I mean, I know that's going to resonate with so many people who are having to change direction or whatever. So to be able to actually follow it and put it into action, walk the walk almost.
Hmm.
So
Absolutely.
I mean, that's great. That sort of leads me to my next interest is, has there been a moment or something which has been a setback which or adversity which you've had to overcome?
Oh my God, so many.
It's
So
kind of
many, but
pick,
let
pick the
me let
top
me
10,
pick, yeah, because I mean, just quickly, I had worked all my life and lost it all when Nortel went bankrupt, and lost all of my investment, because I was senior. I was part of the executive team, and as an insider, you can't trade. And so when it was going down, everything went down, and I got out after 30 years of career with zero,
Oh,
and all my investment gone. So, but I'm sorry, repeat the question, because now I went down.
it was one of the adverse or
Oh,
setback moments, because and what you said there, that would floor most people straight away. So Yeah, that's
And I
brilliant.
think with that comes, and that's where I was going with it, but then it took me so far back, like but it's one of those things where, again, when you defined your whole life and yourself uh, based on what you do for others in a job environment,
Mm,
then the biggest setback is when you don't have that anymore. And not only you don't have the money coming in, but you lose you feel like you lose your worth. Who
mm.
are you? So then who are you if you're not attached to me, who work for companies like Bell Canada, like IBM, like Nortel, like SAS, which is the biggest analytics company in the world? And like, who are you? Because I always had these letters after my name.
Mm, mm.
You're the leader, you're the director of, you're a global, you're this, you're that, and then you lose it. And so the setback is you have to find yourself again. You have to become, it forces you to become who you really are,
Yeah.
without all that, without all the attachment.
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
it's
it's
like
kind of
cut the cord.
yeah, it's kind of like, putting down the baggage which effectively comes with it. So I really get that. Wow. Well,
Yeah.
look, tell me, what are you working on at the moment? Because I'm kind of curious. What's going on in Louise's world at the moment?
How about writing a book for someone else right now, writing my book and starting to write the screenplay as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
So for my book, although my producer said go ahead and do it, but this is Hollywood, so they have their writers and they might just take it and not do anything about it. But at the same time, he knows, he has very good connection with the writer and producer of The Sixth Sense. You recall that movie?
Yeah.
And that the writer of the screenplay is the producer as well. He said, write it, and hey, I may send it to him and see what he thinks, and you know,
Oh,
maybe he'll get involved. So that's what's cooking.
oh my
That's what
God. Is
cooking.
that's great stuff. I mean, that very exciting. Yeah, I'm completely unexcited by it, as you can tell. Um,
Oh,
well, look, this brings me to the second part of the show, which is the time where I get to. I already had all my value already, so spoiler alert there. But I get to ask you for three wishes. So, are you ready, my almighty genie?
I am ready.
Here we go. So, wish number one was, what was the best advice you ever received in your life?
Wow. Okay. So how much time do we have? Because
You can come back for that one.
I can come back. Aside from the advice that I had from so many mentor in my work throughout the years, which, really helped me. I think I'm going to say that the one that came from an old sage, a psychiatrist, um, that, and I have to give you just like a tiny little
Yeah.
backdrop because you'll wonder why that advice. But long story made short, my sister in her early 30s tried to take her life. She went through a really, really rough time, a big depression. She tried to take her life, ended up at the hospital, and the hospital was not equipped to deal with some kind of mental
Mm.
um, health issues and things like that. So they sent her to the psychiatric hospital, and she was there for a few months, and it was awful. And what they did is try to numb her mind. They gave her all kinds of medication and new things they were testing. She was like a guinea pig, for that.
Mm.
It was so sad to see her kind of cocoon and about to die.
Mm.
They were doing that to her. I'm
Mm.
sorry for the psychiatric hospital, and that was a long time ago, but they gave her shock to the brain,
Mm.
12 sessions of that. She was just not my sister anymore. And I felt helpless and useless. I didn't know how to help her. And I one day when I was there to visit her, I was coming down the hall to go back to my car, crying crying, just feeling so sad. And there's this old man walking towards me in a suit. So I knew he was either, working there or what. And he just stopped and said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I'm not okay." And he said, what's happening? And I told him the story about my sister. He took me to his office. He was a retired psychiatrist. And he said, I come back, twice a week to help certain people because that's what he was born to do. And even though he was, as we talked about, retired, he was never going to retire from that. So he said, "I will help your sister." And he was doing hypnotism and things like that. He got her off the meds completely. He saved her life. But what he said to me, because he helped me too, I went there once a week to sit with him when I, after I'd see my sister or before, and he would help me deal with it, how to deal with that. And then I would always justify why I wasn't good enough to do that. And, whatever, I just felt so incompetent. And he said to me, and those words will always stay, he said, "You never have to lie to yourself to justify how you feel." And I had to think about that. You never have to lie to yourself to justify how you feel. Well, that was so true, because I was always, whether I was speaking out loud about it or not, justifying, I shouldn't feel like that. I shouldn't be like that. I shouldn't do like that. That's lying to myself. That is not allowing myself to actually be who I am and do what I can with what I have. And so that changed my life from that point on, in terms of, starting to trust myself and not, and let myself feel.
That's wonderful. I mean, wow, a very, very touching story. And thank you is all I can say for that, because I know that's gonna help so many people as well to just hear that. So thank you. Well, blimey, I should pack up my little lamp and go home, but I'm gonna
Never.
I'm gonna persevere. So that brings me to my second wish, which is, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Oof, so many. But I think the best advice, I'll tell you another little story. I think I time travel. I don't think it was a dream. I'm pretty sure it was real. And went back and saw myself as a 4-year-old crying because there was no love around me. There was no love. And I was just crying. There was so much happening around. And I picked up myself and I held myself and I said, "You'll be okay. You will be okay." That's one thing that happened. And then I went back to, time travel when I was a young adult. And again, I was having a conversation with myself as a young adult. In my 50s, and meeting myself. And I said to myself, it sounds weird, doesn't it? But I said, "You are enough. You are enough. The only person you have to prove something to is to yourself, nobody else." And I practice that now.
To be honest,
I really do.
that is, again, everyone watching, you kind of get the thread why she's such a good writer now. Each one of those could be a story by itself. Look, thank you so much for sharing it, and again, massive value.
Oh, thank you.
So that leads me to my third and final wish, which is, I wonder if you could share one personal habit which attributes to your success?
Mm. If you were to have asked me that some years ago, the habits and attributes that you have on a resume, I could give you a long list of things that are really important and I still use, but are really in the back right now. I think the thing that got me through life and still gets me through it is my attitude.
Mm.
I think, was Monty Python is always look on the bright side of life.
Life of Brian. I mean,
Like,
you're talking to a Brit, so you're speaking my language now.
right? And I had that written everywhere I could.
Mm.
And my little book of gratitude here,
Mm.
little story with that too, I think, is that when things went down for me and when I lost everything, I took a little book like this with me on a walk. I had nothing. When Nortel went down, this is real what I'm saying. Like I had zero in the bank because I lost everything, lost all my investment, everything. And I thought, so what now? I couldn't even, I lost my house, everything. I couldn't even rent anything. I had no job or nothing. And somebody helped me. My ex-brother-in-law wrote a letter that I was working for him just so I could rent, because I said, I'm going to find something, but I couldn't find anything. So every morning I said to myself, you have to take a shower. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and smile, and you have to go for a walk, and you have to find one thing on your walk that you're going to love.
Mm.
Whether it's a bird in a tree that's singing, I stop, listen to it, and I would write it down in my book. Whether it was walking by a park and I heard children laughing, I would stop and write it in my book. And I did that every day, and it took months for me to find. It's over 6 months for me to find a job, and I made it. But I wrote it, the whole diary. I could write a book about that. So it's the attitude. I smiled. People thought I was just this, I must have been a spoiled child in my life because I always smile and things will be okay. Well, if you only knew, it's an attitude. Because if I didn't, I probably would have tried to take my life like my sister did. So, you just have to look at.
Overwhelming odds. I mean, overwhelming odds. So, I mean, that's, and if, anyone listening there, that is again, fantastic advice. So, and I know that it's going to make you feel good. So, wow, what a set of wishes. I mean, really. So, wow.
You.
So, my final sort of bit before I wrap up is there a book which you can recommend to the listeners, something which has sort of got you through things?
Oh, and oh my God, again, I could list, if I were, and I think I told you that before, Paul, if I could, I would have walls of books that I could get up at any time and pick one up and open a page and read something in it. I love books. But there's always that one that sticks with you. And I actually have it here because I always have it. It's Tuesdays with Maury. Have you ever read that? Oh my God. That's about an old man and a young man and life's greatest lesson. And it's a true story. And it's written by Mitch Albom. And long story made short, Mitch Albom, searched for his purpose in his life. And I'll throw a Buddha quote there. And apparently, Buddha says, your purpose in life is to find your purpose and give it your whole heart. Right? That's Buddha.
Wow.
And And I just, it takes a while to figure it out for yourself. But Mitch Albom was searching for his purpose and in all the wrong places. He wanted to be a musician. He wanted to, anyway, he ended up being a sports, writer and things like that. And he heard one day on the news about a professor he had before, who's a philosopher and all that, Maury. And the news was saying that he was dying of Lou Gehrig's disease. And so Mitch thought, I haven't seen him in so long, so I want to see him. And he went to see him, and it changed his life. And every Tuesday he went to see him, and Maury would give him life's greatest lessons. And Maury accepted his death. And Maury said, and I have to say that, he said, love is how you stay alive, and even after your death. And the lessons touch on death, fear, aging, greed, marriage, family, society, forgiveness, having a meaningful life, and leaving an imprint.
Wow. Yeah, no.
You would enjoy it.
Well,
I bought lots of these books. And when I did a lot of change management in my life and transformation. And when I saw people that just were negative, not on board, and life was just not right, and they were, they just weren't happy people. I wouldn't say, hey, I would say, oh, you know what, you like reading? Because I have this book that you would love, and I would give it to them. And every one of them came back and said, oh my God, that changed them, so I love it.
No, to be honest, I'm sold. Wow.
If you were close, I would give it to you. Right?
Yeah.
What? This came out. I don't even know what year it came out. A long time ago. It's still #1 everywhere.
Wow.
Still a bestseller.
I can kind of see why. Now, look, where can we get hold of you? Because, this has been it's a really enjoyable conversation. So where can we get hold of you?
Well, I do have a website, and it's lltremblay.com. You'll also find some information there and a way to reach me through there as well. I also, I do some mentoring with Peggy, and so on peggymccall.com for one-on-one mentoring. You will see her and Phil Goldfine, who teaches about and mentors about how to get into Hollywood, and myself. So you can reach me there too. I do have an Instagram. I don't even know. I think it's 7roses_LL Tremblay. I just started it recently, and I'm not spending time there, so I don't even have a lot of followers. Be nice to have some. I do have Twitter, but it's a reflex_ in Twitter.
And you're on LinkedIn too, I think, as well.
And I have my LinkedIn under it's Louise Tremblay.
Yeah.
So all these places, but I use LinkedIn to communicate with the Writers Network, and that's why I'm there. But
well, look, we've got your name, and now we have the number, as they say, so we can definitely get back in touch with you. So many takeaways from today. A change expert, having come away from corporate America, found a purpose, giving so much of herself and her wonderful gifts to the world. So thank you so much for taking the time to be a Genie today. It's wonderful.
Thank you. I mean, I wish it didn't stop, just because I love talking to you, with you. But thank you so much for the opportunity and for trusting me. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. No, it's fine. And did you have fun?
Oh, totally. Totally. As you can tell, I like talking, so
Yeah.
sometimes a little
Well,
too
don't
much.
worry,
But
that makes two of us. So, well, look, thank you once again. And, get in touch with this lovely lady and make sure you keep tuned in for more great guests. Have a wonderful day and go ahead and release your genie. So goodbye for now.
thank you.
Well, that's a wrap. You have been listening to yet another episode of the Release the Genie podcast with host Paul Rogers. Be sure to follow Paul on the LinkedIn platform and learn more of Paul's resources at www.takeactionacademy.ca. And until next time, as always, be mindful and be sure to release your genie. Thanks for listening.